The audience settles into their studio seats, their expressions revealing a mixture of expectation and anxiety. The cameras are strategically positioned, capturing every possible angle so as not to miss a single reaction. The lights gradually dim until only the center of the stage remains illuminated. The atmosphere is palpable, charged with tension and drama, the trademark of one of America's most watched talk shows. A tense, rhythmic piece of music announces that something extraordinary is about to happen. Before we delve into this shocking story, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. And please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what you thought of this case. Your opinion is crucial for us to continue bringing you heartwarming content. In a secluded corner backstage, a production crew speaks in hushed tones to a dejected-looking man. Michael Thompson, 42, runs a hand through his prematurely gray hair, his red, swollen eyes betraying sleepless nights. He grips a briefcase tightly and nervously looks at the stage where his life is about to be exposed to millions of viewers. At a safe distance, observed by another part of the team, is Lisa Thompson, 39, Michael's wife of 17 years. Her made-up face cannot completely hide the nervousness consuming her inside. She repeatedly intertwines her fingers, a nervous habit that betrays her apparent calm. The narrator begins in a deep, measured voice. Tonight on Dr. Phil's show, a story that challenges the limits of trust and betrayal. Michael Thompson believed he had built the perfect life, a stable marriage, to wonderful children, and a successful career. Until a simple routine medical checkup revealed a devastating secret that threatens to destroy everything he knew to be true. The audience falls silent as Dr. Phil enters the stage. His presence is commanding, his steps firm, his penetrating gaze already analyzing the situation before the first words are spoken. He adjusts the microphone on his suit lapel and addresses the camera directly. What would you do if you discovered that the last 15 years of your life were based on a lie? How would you react to learning that the children you raised as your own, whom you love unconditionally, don't share your DNA? The audience reacts with murmurs of shock as Dr. Phil pauses dramatically. Today, we will witness a story that will question the meaning of family, loyalty, and forgiveness. Michael enters the stage, his steps hesitant. He sits in the designated chair, visibly uncomfortable under the bright lights and curious glances. Drive-off Phil approaches, offering a firm handshake before taking his seat. Michael, thank you for being here today. I know this must be one of the hardest things you've ever done. Doctor Phil maintains eye contact, his voice softer now, creating a safe space for Michael to begin sharing his story. Michael takes a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly as he holds the microphone. I never imagined I'd be here. Drive-off Phil. I always thought we were the perfect family. Lisa and I met in college. We got married young. Jason is 15 now, and Emma is 13. Were my whole world. His voice falters on the last sentence. Dr. Phil nods, encouraging him to continue. What happened to change all this, Michael? 3 months ago, Jason started having intense headaches. The doctors wanted to rule out anything serious, so they ran several tests, including genetic tests to check for predisposition to certain conditions. Michael pauses, struggling to maintain his composure. The doctor called me aside. He seemed uncomfortable, confused. He said there was something in the results that didn't make sense, that my blood type and Jason's were incompatible for a father-son relationship. The audience reacts with audible gasps. The narrator interjects. A simple medical test was about to shatter 15 years of memories and certainties. What began as a concern for her son's health became the catalyst for a devastating revelation. Dr. Phil leans forward, his expression a mixture of compassion and determination to get to the truth. So you've decided to do a paternity test? Michael nods affirmatively, his eyes now fixed on a distant point, as if reliving the moment. He couldn't believe it. He thought there had been a mistake. He did a home paternity test first, then a formal lab test. His voice breaks. They both confirmed it. Jason is not my biological son. And Emma? Asks Dr. Phil, though his tone suggests he already knows the answer. I decided to test Emma as well. The result was the same. Neither of them. Michael can't finish the sentence, tears now streaming freely down his face. The narrator continues, his voice amplifying the tension, faced with the scientific evidence. Michael did the unthinkable. He kept the secret for weeks, living a lie while investigating the truth about his own family. Dr. Phil observes Michael intently. What did you do with that information, Michael? At first, I couldn't process it. How could this be possible? 15 years, Phil. 15 years believing these were my children. Michael wipes away tears with the back of his hand. I started reviewing our life together, looking for signs, moments that might have warned me. I searched through old emails, photos, text messages. And did you find anything? Michael nods, his face contorted in a mixture of pain and anger. I found old emails between Lisa and David. David Mitchell, my best friend since high school. Best man at our wedding. The camera captures the exact moment, Doctor. Phil recoils slightly, an expression of genuine astonishment on his face. His best friend. He lived in our house. He had dinner with us on Sundays. He spent holidays with our family. Michael shakes his head in disbelief. The emails dated from before Jason was born. They were having an affair, Doctor. Phil finishes, his voice firm, helping Michael verbalize the betrayal. Yes, a case that apparently never fully ended. Michael takes a deep breath, trying to regain control. I found recent messages, Phil, from just 2 years ago. At this moment, the audience can't contain their shock and outrage. Doctor. Phil raises his hand, asking for silence, before turning back to Michael. Lisa is here today. Do you want to confront her with what you've discovered? Michael hesitates, then nods affirmatively. I need to hear it from her. I need to understand how she could do this. 15 years, Phil. 15 years of lies. Doctor. Phil turns to the camera. Let's take a break. When we return, Lisa Thompson will join us to explain how she was able to keep this devastating secret for so long. The narrator intervenes again. After the intermission, the cameras capture Lisa Thompson entering the stage, her body rigid with tension. While the audience greets her with an accusing silence, Dr. Phil prepares to mediate what promises to be one of the most intense confrontations of his career. The lights come back on in the studio. Lisa walks to the stage, visibly nervous, but maintaining her composure. She avoids looking directly at Michael, sitting in the chair opposite him. The silence between them is deafening. Lisa, Doctor. Phil begins, his tone subtly shifting to something harsher, more incisive. Michael has just shared a devastating discovery with us. He claims that neither of the two children you raised together for 15 years are biologically his. What do you have to say about that? Lisa takes a deep breath, nervously adjusting the necklace around her neck. I don't know what to say. Phil. I never meant to hurt you. You never wanted to hurt him, Doctor. Phil repeats, his voice thick with disbelief. Lisa, you kept a secret that fundamentally altered this man's life for 15 years. You allowed him to raise children who weren't biologically his, without your knowledge or consent. How is that not wanting to hurt him? Lisa begins to cry, her tears ruining her carefully applied makeup. I love him. I still love him. It all happened before we got married. I was young, confused. Before they got married? Michael interrupts, unable to contain himself. And the messages from 2 years ago. Lisa, were you young and confused then too? Lisa seems genuinely surprised. You saw the messages. I saw everything, Michael replied, his voice trembling with restrained emotion. I saw how you and David laughed at me. How you arranged dates while I was traveling for work. How he joked about being the real father of the children. The revelation causes a commotion in the audience. Dr. Phil raises his hand again, asking for silence. Lisa, are you telling Michael, in front of millions of viewers, that David Mitchell, his best friend, is Jason and Emma's biological father? Lisa lowers her head, defeated. Yes. The narrator continues. Lisa's confession dropped like a bombshell in the studio. Years of secrets and betrayals exposed in seconds of live television. But the worst was yet to come. Doctor. Phil leans forward, his intense gaze fixed on Lisa. Michael found emails and messages. But what he doesn't know, what the audience doesn't know, is that our production team contacted David Mitchell. Lisa abruptly lifts her head, the shock evident on her face. What? David agreed to take a comparative DNA test with Jason and Emma. Doctor. Phil picks up a sealed envelope from a side table, and here are the results. The tension in the studio is palpable as Dr. Phil holds the envelope containing the DNA test results. The audience is completely silent, hundreds of people holding their breaths simultaneously. Michael stares intently at the envelope, as if he can see through the paper. Lisa wrings her hands in her lap, her face a mask of panic. The narrator describes the scene in a grave voice. That envelope contained not only the results of a scientific test, it contained 15 years of memories, birthdays, Christmases, first days of school. 15 years of a family life built on a foundation that now threatened to crumble completely. Dr. Phil looks at Michael with genuine compassion. Before you open this envelope, Michael, I want you to know that, regardless of what's written here, you are a father to those children in every sense that truly matters. Michael nods silently, tears streaming down his face. Lisa remains motionless, her face pale beneath the makeup. Lisa, Dr. Phil continued, turning to her. You stated that David Mitchell is the biological father of Jason and Emma. This envelope confirms or denies your statement. He slowly opens the envelope, takes out the documents, and reads them silently for a few seconds. His expression changes subtly, a mixture of surprise and something more difficult to define. Well, Dr. Phil finally says, these results are conclusive. He pauses, looking first at Michael, then at Lisa. The DNA test confirms with 99% certainty that David Mitchell is, in fact, Jason Thompson's biological father. Michael closes his eyes, absorbing the blow even though he already knows the truth. Lisa sobs silently. As for Emma, Dr. Phil continued, turning the page of the report. The results show. He stopped abruptly, rereading the information, his face showing increasing confusion. This can't be right, murmurs Dr. Phil, more to himself than to the others. He looks again at Lisa, whose expression has changed from sadness to something close to panic. Lisa, says Dr. Phil, his voice now heavy with suspicion, the test shows that David Mitchell is not Emma's biological father. A murmur runs through the audience. Michael looks at Lisa, confused. What? So who? But there's more, interrupts Dr. Phil, his tone gradually becoming harsher. The geneticists who analyzed the results noticed something unusual. Emma's genetic profile showed markers that suggested the need for further testing. Lisa now appears almost catatonic, her eyes wide with fear. We requested permission from the court to obtain additional samples, including one from your brother, James Wilson, Dr. Phil continued, his voice now icy. Lisa, the results indicate that your brother, James, has a 99.95% probability of being Emma's biological father. The studio erupts in reactions of shock and horror. Michael rises abruptly, staggering as if he'd been physically struck. His own brother? Lisa, how could you? She's just a child. Lisa begins to scream in denial, but her words are unintelligible amidst her sobs. Dr. Phil stands up, his face a mask of disgust and indignation. He looks directly at the main camera and says firmly, stop recording. Now. The audience falls into absolute silence, shocked not only by the revelation, but by the prisoner's unprecedented reaction. Dr. Phil removes the microphone from his lapel and drops it on the table. Without saying another word, he walks backstage, leaving Michael and Lisa on stage, both in different states of emotional collapse. The narrator interjects, for the first time in over 2 decades of television, Dr. Phil McGraw left the set mid-recording. What had just been revealed transcended the usual television drama, entering the territory of the truly disturbing. The cameras kept rolling, capturing the extraordinary moment where the truth proved painful even for a professional, accustomed to the darkest depths of human behavior. The narrator continues, his voice now more restrained, almost reverent. What you are about to see has never aired on American television. It was recorded 20 minutes after Dr. Phil left the stage, in a private room at the back of the studio. The production team debated intensely the ethics of showing this material, but Dr. Phil insisted that the public deserved to know the complete story, not for shock value or sensationalism, but for the greater good of protecting the innocent victims in this terrible situation. The scene shifts to a simple room with softer lighting. Dr. Phil is seated across from Michael, who appears to have aged years in the last few minutes. His eyes are red, but his crying has given way to an eerie calm. Michael, says Dr. Phil, his voice gentle but firm, first, I want to apologize for what happened in there. In all my years doing this show, I've never encountered a situation that affected me so deeply that I couldn't continue. Michael nods in acknowledgement, but remains silent. We need to talk about Emma, Dr. Phil continues. What the results suggest is extremely serious and goes beyond a family drama. We're talking about a possible crime. She's only 13, Michael whispers, his voice breaking. Emma was born when Lisa was 26 years old, Dr. Phil confirms. If her brother James is indeed Emma's biological father, this raises very serious questions about their relationship and about Lisa's possible victimization. The narrator interjects, "It was at this moment that the true complexity of the situation began to reveal itself. What initially seemed to be merely a case of infidelity and deceptive paternity now suggested something far more sinister." Michael, Dr. Phil continues, "Our legal team has a legal obligation to report these findings to the appropriate authorities. There are indications that a crime may have been committed. What happens now?" Michael asks, his voice distant, as if he were still processing the shock. Dr. Phil sighs deeply. "Lisa is being interviewed separately by our mental health team. Based on her behavior and the information we have, there are reasons to believe she may have been a victim of abuse by her brother since she was young." The camera captures the exact moment when understanding begins to form on Michael's face. "Are you saying she might not be the villain in this story? Human psychology is complex, Michael. People who suffer prolonged abuse, especially from family members, develop defense mechanisms and behaviors that may seem incomprehensible to outsiders." Dr. Phil pauses, carefully choosing his next words. "I'm not justifying what she did. The betrayal with David, her best friend, was a conscious choice for which she must answer. But the situation with James may be very different." Michael covers his face with his hands. "And the children? My children. They don't know anything about this. How am I going to tell them?" "Michael, regardless of genetics, you are their father. You raised them, loved them, shaped their character. No one can take that away from you, Doctor." Phil places his hand on Michael's shoulder. "As for telling them, we'll have a team of experts to help you with that process. It's not something you should do alone or in a rush." The narrator comments, while Michael struggled to redefine his understanding of family and fatherhood, in another room, an even more disturbing truth was being revealed. The scene shifts to another room, where Lisa is sitting with a psychologist from the team. Her face is washed with tears, her makeup removed, making her look strangely younger and more vulnerable. "Lisa," the psychologist says gently, "can we talk about your relationship with your brother James?" Lisa visibly shudders at the sound of the name. "I didn't want to," she whispers, so low it's almost inaudible. "I never wanted to. It started when I was 12. No one would believe me." "And Emma?" the psychologist asks carefully. Lisa begins to cry silently. "He threatened to kill me if I told anyone. He said everyone would think I was crazy, that I wanted it. When I found out I was pregnant, I was already married to Michael. I thought it might be David's. I prayed it was." She wipes away her tears. "When Emma was born, I knew. She has the same eyes as him, the same eyes that haunted me." The narrator continues, "The story that unfolded was darker than any television screenwriter would dare to create. And at the center of this storm was Michael Thompson, a man whose life had been built on a lie, but who now faced a moral choice far more profound than he had ever imagined." 3 months have passed since the fateful recording. The image shows Dr. Phil sitting alone on stage, the studio empty except for the minimal film crew. His expression is solemn, contemplative. "When I started this program over 20 years ago, I promised to bring to light the truths that families hide in the darkness." He believed that the truth, however painful, has always been the path to healing. Dr. Phil pauses, carefully choosing his words. "The Thompson family case took us into territory I never imagined exploring on national television. Out of respect for the children's privacy and due to the ongoing criminal investigations, much of what we uncovered never aired." He sighs deeply. "But today, with Michael's permission, I can share with you the conclusion of this extraordinary story." The narrator interjects, "The revelations of that day triggered a series of events that forever transformed the lives of everyone involved. James Wilson was arrested and is being prosecuted on multiple counts of sexual abuse. The investigation revealed a pattern of predatory behavior that extended beyond his own family. Lisa Thompson began intensive psychological treatment for trauma from prolonged childhood abuse and is fully cooperating with authorities." The image shifts to Michael, sitting in a sunny park, watching from afar as the teenagers play frisbee. His face is more relaxed, though it still bears the marks of the pain he has endured. "It was the hardest decision of my life," says Michael, his voice stronger now. "When I found out the truth about James, about what Lisa had gone through, I couldn't just turn my back on it. Not on the children, not on her." He shakes his head, as if still surprised by his own decision. Lisa needs to face the consequences of her choices with David. That's between the two of us. But as for Emma, his voice falters slightly. She's my daughter, not by DNA, but by all the moments we've lived together. She didn't ask to be born in these terrible circumstances. The scene returns to Dr. Phil in the empty studio. Michael Thompson made a choice that few men would have the moral strength to make. He decided to remain adjacent in Emma's lives as a father, regardless of biology. He is working with Lisa through family counseling, not to save the marriage. Some breaches of trust are irreparable, but to give the children the stability they need. During this traumatic period, Phil stands and walks across the empty stage, reflecting. When I left that stage 3 months ago, it wasn't just out of shock or indignation. It was because I realized that some truths are so complex, so nuanced, that they can't be reduced to sensationalist television moments. Sometimes, true courage lies not in exposing secrets at any cost, but in confronting them with compassion and wisdom. He stops in the center of the stage, looking directly at the camera. The Thompson family teaches us that fatherhood isn't defined by DNA, it's defined by the choices we make every day. Michael chose to be a father not once, but twice. First, during the 15 years he raised those children without knowing the truth, and again when, knowing the truth, he decided to continue being the father they always knew. In a world where it's easy to judge, abandon, and seek revenge, Michael chose an infinitely more difficult path, the path of compassion, conditional forgiveness, and moral responsibility that transcends biological ties. The narrator concludes. The studio remained silent for a long time after Dr. Phil finished his monologue. There was no audience to applaud, no backstage noise, just the silence that accompanies the deepest truths about the human condition. And perhaps, in that silence, lay the most powerful message of all, that the true test of a man's character is not in his DNA, but in the choices he makes when confronted with life's most painful truths. Dr. Phil looks at the camera one last time, his penetrating gaze filled with genuine emotion. Ultimately, family isn't defined by blood, but by love, choice, and commitment. And that, perhaps, is the most important truth the show has ever revealed. The studio lights gradually dim until only Dr. Phil's face remains visible before the screen finally goes dark.